Okay, so we're at
late.
Shannon's house today. We're late. We're sorry. We're so late.
No, here's why we're late. Because we're being perfectionist. And that's what we're talking about today.
I know, and I'm trying to get the thing exactly. Scoot this way just a little bit.
Hold on. We're going to get this perfect, and then we're going to talk about not being a perfectionist as soon as we're perfect.
Oh, okay. So we're at Shannon's house today, and so we had to reset up our situation here. So thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Lots to do.
And today we are talking about perfectionism, which I think we both are recovering.
Yes. My name is Shannon, and I'm a recovering perfectionist. Although today it would not look like I'm in recovery.
Yeah. It does creep back into my life a lot. I remember right after I got married, and my mother said to me, because I was really upset with the way that my ex-husband Jeff was loading the dishes in the dishwasher. He was not doing it correctly. He wasn't washing them enough before he put them in the dishwasher. And I got really upset, and my mom gave me a little piece of advice. She goes, let me tell you something, Suzanne. Stop criticizing the way he puts the dishes in the dishwasher, or he won't be putting the dishes in the dishwasher anymore.
Again.
Yeah.
It's true. I love that concept. My story that I got this shown to me years ago, just in a relative of mine. I had a cousin who was up north, and she was doing creek rocks around her gazebo in the back, and she told her husband, I need a certain amount of creek rocks, and he's on it, right? He's got this little Honda, and he's got 85 creek rocks in the back. I mean, it's dragging the ground. He went to every creek in Ohio and got these creek rocks, and he's getting them out of the car. I mean, they're heavy, and he's hauling them back to the gazebo. He spends hours. It's like a 5-hour project, and my cousin comes out after, and she goes, listen, if you're not going to do it right, don't do it at all. And I was like, oh my God. And I looked at her and I went, but what's the right way to do creek rocks? Like, is this Better Homes and Gardens?
Just lay them down?
Yeah, Better Homes and Gardens, page 72, tells you the correct way. But it was such a mirror image to me, because when you're a perfectionist, you believe there's a right and a wrong way to do everything. And I'm going to burst your bubble today. There is a way to do it, and there's a different way to do it. But there is not a right or wrong way to do almost anything.
It was interesting because we were kind of chatting before we started going live about where this comes from and why do we feel this need to be perfect and have a little bit of OCD and want everything done just exactly the right way. And you said it's kind of interesting how this presents itself, and it has to do with shame from being a kid.
She's calling me out, but we do have to talk about where this comes from, so I'll be the sacrificial lamb today. So at the end of the day, a lot of people think perfectionism is about, I just want to be the best. I care about things. I want good work product. No. Perfectionism is about shame. And there's a sweet little lady by the name of Brene Brown who will tell you all about it in a book called The Gifts of Imperfection. And she is an amazing researcher, and she writes about it. But basically,
she was on Oprah a lot, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
She's amazing, and she's written Daring Greatly, and now she's written The Gifts of Imperfection. I think was one of the first ones. But here's the deal, guys. We feel like we are not enough. I love this line. No matter what gets done and how much is left undone, I am enough. That is the beginning of the recovery process, telling yourself that, because perfectionism comes from a belief system that I am not enough, that you will not approve of me, that you will not accept me. So Suzanne's calling me out of how we were chatting about this earlier. So I was raised very, very poor. No disrespect to my amazing mother, because she killed herself to give me everything I needed. But brief synopsis, mom and dad were married. There was a good amount of money to go around because they both worked really hard, and they were married. But at 10, they got divorced. And
when
I was 10, they got divorced. And I think dad was ordered to pay $40 in child support a week. Woo! Wow. And I don't know that he did that sometimes. At the end of the day, we were so poor that at one point the transmission went out in our car. Now you think about that today. If my transmission went out, I wouldn't think twice. I'd just go get it fixed, right? I mean, a lot of times I'm driving a lease car that's still under warranty, not a big deal, but we didn't have any money. So the way we dealt with it is that we would have to rock the car to roll out of the driveway. We parked on hills so that we could roll into reverse because we couldn't do it for maybe 6 months, a year. I don't know. It was a very long time. It was enough to make it very clear to me that I was different than that kid whose birthday party I went to that was in the, you know, gated community and were $1 million homes. So I carried a lot of shame that I was less than, that my clothes were less than, that my purse was less than, that my stuff was less than. And so I went into the world at 18, 19 years old. I went to University of Florida, if you can imagine, with all the wealthy people. I think I had like 9 roommates with BMWs, all different colors. And I had an old beater car that I was grateful to have. But I walked into life at 18 years old feeling and knowing that I was not enough, and have spent the rest of my life up until maybe 25, 30 trying to prove.
Is it always associated with shame though? Because I feel like my daughter carries a lot of, like she has a lot of this, and I know it's probably because of me, but she has that very perfectionism gene, because she, but I don't think it's shame in her case, or is it?
It usually, you know, again, I have not read this book cover to cover, but as a therapist working in the field 20 years, every single time I've seen it, it's about shame, but it's about different kinds of shame. My daughter doesn't have any shame about money. Right. She's like, well, should I wear this one or this one? Right. I mean, she's never lived that. Her dad's a lawyer. I'm a therapist. We both have worked very hard, and we both have done well. So my daughter and my son don't really carry any shame. I don't think about where they live or what they ride in, and if they do, shame on them. But my daughter definitely feels not enough. And definitely works so hard in school. As a matter of fact, this video is dedicated to her because we had a conversation where she's at University of Florida, which, you know, only number 7 in the nation, I think it just made, or 10 in the nation. Go Gators. So pretty impressive. And yet she's there and she's getting A's and she's studying too much, and she's feeling not enough, and she's doing her list, and she's not allowing herself to play, not allowing herself to watch Netflix, not allowing herself to read a book for pleasure, because I've got to work harder. And every time she's not working, she feels like I should be doing something.
I have that.
Right.
Yeah.
This is what it looks like.
I can't just sit down. I'm like, Suzanne, just relax. Like, you don't have to be like constantly doing something, you know?
Well, to answer your question, Hannah's shame comes from being a kid in gifted classes as a child, and then I moved her because the gifted teacher was horrible, and so all her friends were in gifted and she wasn't in gifted. And from 5 years old, I'm not enough. I'm not gifted. She is gifted, but I made a decision because the teacher was not doing great things, and I didn't want the pressure. I just wanted my kid to have fun. Very well intentioned. The wound, we talk about childhood woundings, the wound that causes, I'm not enough to be
in the gifted class.
And the other 5-year-olds were happy to tell her so.
See, is there a way as a parent that you can, help them not feel that way? Or, like with Lane, I feel like there's something I should be telling her. And I think hers has to do around school and also around social media, which, you see a lot of.
The biggest.
It is, because they're inundated with these images of these girls and these women that, have these perfect pictures. They're not real, by the way.
Airbrush.
But, they're constantly bombarded with that. And
we are in a total cultural crisis of I'm not enough right now because of social media. It doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing. Hannah and I were discussing this recently. Everybody else is having more fun than you, and everybody else is together, and you're not in that group. And it's so funny because my best friend from college came in town, and we had 25 minutes together yesterday. 25. And you know what we did? She said, let's take a picture. So I don't know if she posted it on social media. I didn't post it. But if she did, the rest of the world would go, they're having so much fun there together. We had 25 minutes in the mall. She drove to me. I was so grateful, and just got a good hug and 10 minutes of conversation, literally, and a nice picture.
And it looks like,
but it looks like
you guys are hanging out and having the best time.
She made me a priority. We spent the whole day together. She didn't get to see that one. She didn't spend time with that one. But she said it's such garbage what social media looks like when it's not real. I mean, it was a lovely 25 minutes. I was grateful, but that's what happens. So our kids are growing up in, I'm not enough because I'm not invited. I'm not enough because I'm not at that party. I'm not enough because I'm not part of that group. They don't want me in their group. And really, it's just about chemistry and timing and all kinds of stuff, just like it was when we were kids. So yes, it's almost always about shame and I'm not enough. And what do we do to help them? I gave my daughter this book a few years ago and said, hey, read this. And I love that line, no matter what gets done, how much is left undone, I am enough. And helping Lane and helping Hannah and our children to say that all the time. That's how how did I begin to break my perfectionism? Because I was a perfectionist up through, graduate school, I graduated with a 4.0. Nobody knows, nobody cares. There's not a therapist or a client who's ever asked me what I've graduated with. It doesn't,
It doesn't matter.
And I have tons of friends.
And you killed yourself getting that 4.0.
Killed myself.
Right.
And I have friends who borrowed my papers because they failed theirs and started over with mine and used mine, and they're making more money than me.
Yes.
And I don't have any diplomas on the wall, and nobody asks and nobody cares. But I killed myself because I needed to be enough. So what happened was I was pregnant with my daughter and I was killing myself. And I was working for this woman who was wonderful, and she was one of my mentors, and I worked for her for 5 years. But she was task oriented, and she'd walk in and she'd say, hey, did you get this done? Did you get that done? Well, I was pregnant.
Right.
I threw up twice a day with Hannah. Oh. Sorry to be graphic, but that was the skinny for 4 months. So I was so anxious and sick all the time that I forgot everything. And it partly helped me get sick twice a day because I was so worried, because you'd say, did you do this? And it's like, oh, I forgot. And I was just a wreck. By the time Hannah was born, I was literally vibrating because I wanted to be perfect for her. Just graduated 4.0, done everything in my life up to that point. Perfect. Now I have to be perfect for a boss that's watching and who's a little bit of a hey, did you get this done? And she's holding me accountable.
Right.
I was so physically sick. And we were therapists together, and we did this treatment program 5 days a week. And we brought people in from all over the world, and this therapist invented something called new outfits, where people would try a new behavior on for 24 hours, and it would fit with whatever their disorder was. And the treatment protocol for perfectionism was the new outfit of celebrating mistakes. So the person had to go to dinner with everybody, because it was a 5-day program where they stayed with us. So they'd go to dinner with everybody. They'd knock over the salt shaker and then go, oh, God, well, sorry about that. Klutzy here, and they'd bring attention to it,
right.
Highlight it, and get everybody, aware that they screwed up, and then just own it and then celebrate it. Right. And it was profound.
Really?
What 24
hours? Sounds kind of hokey, but it wasn't hokey.
So I will tell you, I'm going to get real hokey for a minute. So I started
And I'm all about hokey.
Well, that's the point.
Right.
So that's what I started doing. My boss would come in, she'd go, hey, did you book the hotel for next week? We've got 12 people coming in. And I go, request permission for a flyby. No. It's like you never even told me. No, I hope there's a hotel available. I guess I screwed that up.
And you still had a job after
yes.
this?
It's the best story. She would just look at me like, okay, well, you need to call. And I'd be like, yeah, I hope there's a hotel because we might be staying in Boynton to go to Jupiter. I don't know. I would turn the volume up because what happened is I owned all of it.
Right.
I celebrated it. And there's a funny thing that happens to your brain when you do that. Your brain goes, whoa, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
And so the shame goes down. I did that for 1 year. Every time I screwed up. Have you ever been pregnant? Do you forget everything when you're pregnant?
Yes.
Everything. I did that for 1 year. The entire time, every time I made a mistake, she would ask the littlest question. Did you copy that list of phone names? No. No, I never did it. In one ear, out the other. What? Doozy bots here. I don't know. I would every single time. And she'd just cock her head and go, okay, could you print that list? It was profound. 4 or 5 years later, she was going through a situation in her life. And she came to me and she said, I want to tell you, I was telling my husband how much I admire you. You always own everything you do. You never make an excuse. You never make up a story. You own everything wholeheartedly. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing because I wanted to say, and I think I did say, well, I did it kind of because of
of
our
you,
relationship,
right.
because I wanted to please you, and I was physically sick when I didn't. And it was so powerful that was her favorite trait about me. But it removed the shame, and the message my brain got is, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, and how profound would that be in any relationship, not just a boss-employee
Yeah.
relationship, but
It's
a
great in spouses.
husband-wife relationship, a friendship. I think you can use that for everything, because I think we get so defensive, and we, especially as a perfectionist, you get so defensive, and
That's
you
exactly.
don't own up to it because you want to be perfect and you don't want anyone to think you're not perfect.
Oh yeah,
So-
just to check and make sure we're talking to the right people. Here's what it looks like. This is what it looked like my whole life. Oh, well, I didn't do the list because when you told me to, then you asked me to call someone, and when I called so-and-so, and then I got distracted, but I was gonna do the list, but then the computer glitched. Like, I would be so defensive,
yes.
reactive, and have a million stories, and then walk away feeling horrible about myself.
Right.
And today, and my clients will tell you this, I walk in my lobby, there's 2 people sitting there, I go, ha, I screwed up. I'm like, which one doesn't belong? Which one doesn't belong here? And I know it's my fault. I always own it now.
Right,
I
right.
own it even if it's their fault, because it doesn't matter. Because I'm
Right.
enough.
Right.
I am enough today. Today, I turned 46 in December. I'm enough. I'm a good enough mom. I'm a good enough therapist. I'm a good enough wife. I'm not the best. I'm not perfect, but it's enough.
Right.
Right? The other thing that's a great tool, we always love to give tools, is perfectionism is bred and kind of ingrained with OCD, right? Every dish is in the dishwasher. We can't stand to have dishes in the sink. We can't stand to have laundry. You know you're a perfectionist when you get so worked up with laundry. I have 3 loads of laundry. I need to get my laundry. I have dishes in the sink. I have clutter everywhere. If you want to recover from perfectionism, leave it.
Yeah.
Leave the laundry for like a week.
Yeah, I've gotten that way. I have a hard time with not taking care of my bills. I get all my bills done, but just like filing them, and the office in my house, that's the only thing that stresses me out, because I let things kind of pile up without filing them away or really taking care of, certain things that I know don't need to be taken care of right away. And I've just got to that point where I'm like, Suzanne, it doesn't matter. I mean, as long as you're paying your bills on time, and it doesn't matter if you file it in the perfect file that it's supposed to go to, and it sits on your desk for a little bit longer than it should. Yeah. I just think we get so caught up in making everything so perfect. And you're right, being so defensive about it.
Yeah. Because it's a statement that you're not enough.
Right.
Every time the world sees that you have laundry, that something's wrong, it's a statement that you're not enough. And that's what Suzanne was calling me out earlier, because she was coming to my house for the first time. And I've done really well with my perfectionism for years. But one area that I struggle is when someone new is coming to my home, and I care about them, and I care about how they see me, and I want them to know that I'm a good citizen, and I'm a good person, and I'm clean, and I have a clean home. I get crazy with how I do things to my house that no one is ever going to see.
It might have involved a
Q-tip.
A Q-tip. I almost said a toothpick. A Q-tip.
We're not talking about that,
She
Suzanne.
was cleaning with a Q-tip for me. Which is the craziest thing I've ever
In
heard.
hard to reach places, a Q-tip can be very effective.
Like, I'm gonna go look and see.
And she's
places.
gonna wipe and a little bit dusty in the crevice of
And
the...
no one cares. Like, I could
Nobody
care
cares.
less. I could
But
care
that's
less, but
the
it's just-
shame.
It's so true.
That's the shame of growing up poor, where when you're poor, nothing gets fixed. Like something breaks and you can't get to it, like the car or whatever. So it was all about like, I'm clean. I'm a clean person. This is baby powder, but it looks like dust. So let me get rid of that because it looks like I haven't dusted in years, but I have dusted. And all that insecurity and shame, right? So being able to leave it, like with the laundry and the dishes, that was how I worked on my perfectionism. I'm not kidding. This is how bad I'm really calling myself out today. I'm going to have a vulnerability hangover tomorrow, Brene Brown calls it, because I'm sharing way too much.
I love it.
But when I was first married, I would come into my home, my purse would be on my shoulder, I would walk into the house, I would make the bed, I would put all the dishes in the dishwasher, I would wipe all the countertops, fluff the pillows, fold everything, my purse was still on my shoulder. I would not, in my brain, you don't get to relax until your home is presentable and perfect, then you get to relax.
Wow.
I did that. So that the 20s were rough with me with perfectionism because I in my mind had, landed a great guy who was wonderful. It was almost like, you almost feel like, the other way people will say it is, I feel like a fraud. Like if anybody really knows how inadequate I am, they would never marry me. They would never be my friend. They would never be my child. They would never hire me. Right. And so you have to make it perfect all the time. And of course, my husband didn't even notice. Like, what did he care, right? But it was that intense for me.
And that's what drives me crazy about social media, because I think, I really challenge people to just be real and just be who they are, because I think we get so caught up in making everything look perfect. And, I do the same thing too. You want that perfect picture that you're posting, but I think you just sometimes have to show the, real life. And it's not always pretty.
I had dog-eared this page in the book by Brene Brown. It says, courage originally meant to speak one's mind by telling one's heart. Speaking honestly and openly about who we are, about what we're feeling, about our experiences, good and bad, is the definition of courage. I love that.
Yeah.
And that's who I am today. And I think that's definitely who you are today, is to just say, this is who I am. You might love me, and you may not love me. And that's okay. I love me. I think I'm good enough. Right. I think I'm enough. And the people that think I'm enough will be in my company and share time with me. And if they don't, they won't. And that's their choice. It's really okay.
But how do you get there? I mean, are there some small steps you can start to take to get there? Because I think if you really, I see where you're coming from, and I know how much you've changed, because you are that person. You're like, take it or leave it. This is who I am. But a lot of people don't know how to get there.
Well, so, okay, the first thing, I'm not kidding when I tell you, the celebrating mistakes will change you. It will change your life forever. If you make a commitment for the next 3 months, every single time you make a mistake, that you
own it.
Throw a party. Own it. Oh my gosh, I did that. I did that. That thing that's broken, I broke it.
Right.
Own it and celebrate, make mockery of it, make it big. That's number one. That will change you phenomenally. Number two, all the things you're OCD about in your home, if you leave it for, like, some people are so bad with this, like I was, you could only leave it for a day, like dishes in the sink for a day. So you want to extend it. So do it a day, and then the next week, make them sit for 2 days, and the next, I don't want roaches and wild animals in your house. But
can we pick something else?
Yeah,
maybe like don't make your bed or something.
Don't make your bed. Don't make your bed when you leave in the morning. Make it when you get home, or see if you can leave it unmade. The laundry, leave it to where, if you're one of those people, every time you have a load, you do it. Leave it till there's 3 or 4 loads. Do it once a week, because really, here's the big time thing. Perfectionism robs you of your life. It robs you of your joy. It robs you of your life. We spent how much time messing with this machine while some of you were like, we're waiting. You take up so much time. Perfectionists in school rewrite their papers 3 times, retype them, redo them. Do you know how much time you're wasting? So look at these areas of your life that you're spending too much time. You're cleaning, you're spending an hour and a half reapplying your makeup, you're getting crazy with your hair, those kinds of things. Another thing that's great practice, and these are silly, hokey tools, but I'm telling you, people paid $5,000 and $10,000 to come to treatment to do these things, which changed their life. The other thing they made me do, go out of the house with 2 different colored socks on. Go out of the house not put together. As a perfectionist, you will not catch us dead out in public being disheveled. As perfectionists
I went to Dunkin' Donuts in my pajamas this morning.
Yeah.
Just I did. So you know.
And I went to Joe's in a blue shirt and brown shorts and black shoes. That is something I never would have done in 20. Everything always matches, but as a recovering perfectionist, I go, I don't care. I put my hair in a scrunchie. I had not washed my face. I did brush my teeth. That's all I did. But that's how you learn. So you leave the house on Saturdays. I'm not asking you to ruin your career and go to work. Please don't do that.
Don't wear your pajamas
Don't wear your pajamas to work. Don't call me when you've lost your job.
Right.
On Saturday, roll out of bed, brush your teeth, go to Dunkin' Donuts in your pajamas. Go in your beat up shorts and let your toenails that you haven't had your pedicure, wear your flip flops for the day. Show the world I don't have it all together.
And I really don't care.
That is another great tool.
Glenn writes, it all really doesn't matter. That's my mantra. That's a good mantra to have. You know what I did? I haven't found a self-help book that I don't love. We know that about Suzanne. So I bought this book because it was on a list of the 10 best self-help books. Oh. And so I had to, of course, have it. And it's called Radical Acceptance, and it's by Tara Brach. I first bought this book probably a year ago, and I started to read it, and I was like, oh, this is so woo-woo. Like, it's not me. and I didn't connect with it.
Yeah.
Well, all of a sudden, I picked it up about 3 months ago, and it really connected with me. Yeah. And it's all about embracing who you are. It's called Radical Acceptance, but and it tells you step by step about just how to really accept who you are. You know, all your faults, all your mistakes, everything. Yes. You know. And so if you're struggling with this, I would say go get Radical Acceptance. It's another good book in addition to the Brene Brown book. This is by Tara Brach.
Right.
And I've really just loved, and she's a therapist, and she talks about all the people that are recovering from perfectionism and all of the issues that they've had, and how it's all about just accepting who you are.
Yeah, and overachieving. And some more tips. One of the things Hannah and I were talking about is list. People judge themselves based on list, right? So if you're one of those people that has a list of 12 things and you won't let yourself stop until you cover all 12, or you, another thing we do is we like punish ourselves, like we won't allow ourselves to go to the beach until everything's done. And you may, this is a good point. Some people are raised like this. I know I had a lot of friends growing up that they weren't allowed to do anything till all their chores were done. And I don't have a judgment either way, but I know that a lot of people kind of take that on as adults. It's like, I'm not allowed to have joy fun or play until all the work stuff is done. And you and I can both testify to the fact that it's never done. It's never done. Especially if you're a single mom, forget it. There's laundry, there's laundry for days. One of the most healthy things I ever did as a single mom, because I had worked on my perfectionism and I just didn't think it mattered, I took my laundry to the laundromat and they did it for me while I was at the beach with my children. Because as a mom, single mom...
But they don't do it right. What if they don't do it right?
Exactly. Because what's right? Guess what? It's clean.
Right.
That's what's right. It's clean. It doesn't smell anymore. And if it's folded wrong, it doesn't matter. But that was huge growth for me. I dropped all my laundry off every Saturday, and the kids and I went to the beach, went to the mall, went to the jumping fruit, whatever we wanted to do. I was not going to let the chores stop the fun and the joy. The chores got done midnight when they were sleeping or whatever, because...
So is Hannah practicing some of these things?
Oh, she's they have a saying like therapists always marry better therapists, and I want to change it to like therapists have better therapists as children. Like she's amazing. Yeah. And so she's integrating her yoga. She's making herself, instead of, she'll go, I have a paper due in 9 days. And I'm like, 9 days?
Oh my gosh. But what if you're a perfectionist and a procrastinator like me?
Well, she's got the ADD, so that all ties. But she's panicking on something in 9 days, whereas I know, you're probably like the night before and you get an A. Right. And she's that kid that's going to get an A, but she's overworking. And so she's now working on like, no, I'm going to go out all weekend. Right. It's Thanksgiving. I'm going home and I'm going to hang out with my family and I'm going to have fun. And she's learning that she can do less and still get the same grades. Right. So that's another tool that I'll give you. So many of us don't even know what it takes to get the A or the B. I remember when I fell in love in college freshman year and I couldn't focus anymore, and I called my mom and I'm like, oh my God, or sophomore year or something like that. Freshman, sophomore year, and I called my mom and I said, I'm gonna fail. She goes, no, now you're gonna learn what you really need to do. Right. Because I had been overdoing for so long, and then I fell in love and I couldn't think of anything but him. Yeah. So I couldn't do anything, and guess what? I still made A's. So challenge yourself. Do less and see what happens. Do less at work. And all of you are going, I can't
I really started practicing that at work because, I still get paid the same amount.
Funny thing.
When I do less, when I'm taking care of myself and, sticking with what I need to do to make my life okay, it's about being efficient too. Yes. I mean, I think you can get all your stuff done, just don't overdo it, you know? Yeah, and it's true. Doing less.
Do less. See what happens. Do less and see, does your boss even notice? Those kinds of things. Now, if you're, I feel like today's session is the intersection of like all 9 videos, because if you're codependent, when you do less, they are going to be mad. Mm-hmm. So expect that.
Right.
But really looking at outcome and production. I bet you could put in less time and still meet your numbers if you're,
commission based.
Yeah, commission based.
Yeah.
That's a great example, because I was going to say a lawyer, and that's not true because you have
Right.
to do hourly. But if you're commission based sales, I bet you could do less, use more charisma, and put more oomph into it, and still make the same numbers at the end of the month.
Yeah.
So practicing to see where you're going to land, that's okay.
Right.
But I think there's a lot of self-esteem tied into it.
And doing that for everything in your life. I mean, not just at work, but also, if you're putting too much into a relationship, you're putting too much into your kids, try doing a little less.
Yes.
And it's not about not taking care of them, but you know what I mean. I mean, not doing everything for them.
Say no.
Say no.
Say no
more. My daughter's thing now is she'll be sitting on the couch on her phone and want me to get her water. And I'm like, Lane, you are doing nothing, and I'm over here like cleaning the kitchen. Like, go into the garage and get yourself your own water.
Right.
So it's stuff like that I just think we're so used to doing it and overdoing. Yes.
Well, my favorite relationship tool that we talked about in the codependency video, probably, but when somebody comes in and they're so angry because they're doing, I said, wait a minute, you're in a relationship, it's 50-50, especially in the beginning. Now, granted, I'm married 8 years. Sometimes he's doing 150, I'm doing 0. Sometimes I'm doing 150. Right. But when you're in a new relationship, I love the concept of you're in a canoe, I row, and then I wait. You row, and then you wait. I row, and then I wait. Because think about it, you're in a new relationship, you're calling, hey, I'll cook you dinner. And then the next night you're like, I loved cooking dinner last night. I could cook again. I love cooking. It's no big deal. I've got some things I can throw together. Stop it.
Right.
I row, then you wait for him to ask you to go out to dinner and he'll buy dinner.
Right.
Then you row, right? So it's like you have to take turns. Otherwise, what you're doing is training the other person to be Lane and sit on the couch. Love you, Lane. We're just teasing. But then you're training them to like, I'll do dinner all the time. I'll clean everything. I'll take your plate for you. Right. You sit. I'll do everything. And you're training them for that.
Yeah. Yeah, Jacqueline says, I feel when I do less, people compliment me more on my work.
How
is that
funny
true?
Is that?
Yeah, with codependency, she says the word no is something we have to struggle to use. Yeah.
We have to.
We've talked about that before. And I think codependency and perfectionism really go hand in hand.
They're married.
They are.
They're besties.
They are, because you really just want to be right. You want to be perfect. You want everyone to know how perfect and wonderful you are and praise you for being that person. But when it doesn't turn out like that, then you're like, oh.
That's why we keep going back to the concept of enough. There's a chapter in Brene Brown's book, page 23, Exploring the Power of Love, Belonging, and Being Enough. Because all of our self-esteem gets invested in, do you love me? Do you approve of me? And do you think I'm enough? Mm-hmm. And that's why it goes back to those mantras and those affirmations of knowing that you're enough just the way you are, who you are, not what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So I often talk about like patting yourself on the back, or I'll be, not so much anymore, but I used to be driving in my car and I would just simply say out loud, I'm smart enough. I am pretty enough. I am kind enough. I'm a good enough friend. I'm a good enough mom. I'm a good enough wife. I am enough. And
I write that stuff down.
Yeah.
I mean, I write it in my journal because I don't know, I feel weird saying it to myself. But if I write it, it doesn't feel as weird for some reason.
And then read it to yourself.
Right. Yeah.
But it's actually, the brain is like a computer. And so you have to think of it as data entry. Yeah. And, it's funny, you say you feel weird saying it to yourself, but I'll bet you $50 you have no problem going, I look fat in this.
Right. Or why am I so stupid? Or why didn't I do that? Why didn't I do that the right way? Or why didn't I remember to do that?
You don't have any problem saying that out loud to yourself. You say that in front of 10 people, but I don't want to say something nice about myself.
Right.
It's the same data entry system. When you say, I am fat, I am ugly, I am worthless, out loud, your computer says, okay, thank you for that information, and you will now feel fat, ugly, and worthless. Right. If you say, I am enough,
I feel the same way. Like when people at work are, say, this job sucks, or, it's life just sucks. And I look at them and I say, you're creating your reality. I mean, you're making your job suck because you're saying it. Mm-hmm. You're saying it. And so of course your life is going to suck and your job is going to suck. And, you continue to put that into your brain, you know?
And I think, I'd love for us to do a video in the near future, so kind of a sneak peek on what we do put in the universe and that whole concept of the law of attraction and what we manifest and what we're drawing to us. I think that that's important for everybody to understand those concepts and how much impact it makes.
Yeah.
Overall.
Well, we'll do that in our next video. Or one in the future. Jacqueline says, I love the practice of talking to yourself like you're talking to your best friend. I love this theory.
That's so wonderful. Thank
true.
you, Jacqueline. And that's a great concept to say. Like, would you say this to your best friend? Would you say this to your daughter, what you say to yourself?
Yeah.
Rachel says, I have always been treated like I'm not important. Oh, I'm so sorry. You know what? So this is just for you, Rachel, that it's very, very important that you start valuing yourself and that you start sending your brain messages of, I am important and I'm worth it. I went to a training once, and this really changed my life, so I'm glad you brought this up. Went to a training once, and the trainer was amazing, and she said, I want everybody to write down on a piece of paper a word that they hate or that really bothers them and triggers them. And so mine was entitlement. I hate entitled people, and I was very proud, and I wrote it big, and entitlement. I hate entitlement. And she said, okay, great. Now I want everyone in the room to tell me what is good about your word.
Oh.
What is good
about
what
entitlement?
What brings good about being entitled? And then I got hit in the face with a brick. Because entitlement means I deserve. And I had spent my whole life not feeling like I deserved anything. I spent my whole life up to that point.
So people who felt entitled triggered you because you didn't feel like you deserved.
How dare you think that you deserve when I don't deserve? I had spent my whole life up until that point being grateful. Everybody would say, oh, you did a great job. I say, oh, it's not me. I'm just grateful. I'm blessed. It has nothing to do with me. It must be a God thing. I've had people confront me and say, no, it's a you thing.
Right.
You're great. And well, it's not me. So when I left that training, everybody had to take their word and they had to say it every day. So I had to leave there and say every day, I deserve, I have worth, I'm valuable, I deserve. And again, it changed my life. And my husband could attest to that because I joked I had just gone to that training as I was meeting him. And we were talking about engagement. And he was talking about rings. And I was like, oh, this is a really bad time to meet me. Because I deserve. Whereas in the past, I've been like, a cigar wrapper is fine. I don't need a ring. I don't need any symbol. So,
like, you better put the ring on it, honey.
I got a beautiful ring. And you know what he said back to me?
You do.
He said, you do.
Yeah.
You deserve everything I could ever give you. And the reason he said that is because I had been making those changes and I had been loving myself and valuing myself and starting to feel like I deserved.
You know, and I feel the same way. Like, same with my career. Like, it started to take off when I really realized, my value and what I was worth. And I wasn't going to continue to work myself into the ground and continue because I knew that what I was giving was enough.
Right.
And I think when you start to really practice that and really, really take care of yourself, and make yourself important, Rachel, because no one's going to make you feel important. No one's going to do that. You have to make yourself feel important.
When you act as if you're important, you will attract people who treat you that way. And the most powerful thing my husband ever said to me during this time frame, because we were dating and getting to know each other, and he said to me, oh, you would never tolerate that. And inside I went, oh,
yeah.
I am putting off a vibe that I value myself so much that you would never get away with that with me. And I'd never put off that vibe before.
Right.
So finally being so valuable to myself, I was setting boundaries that said, I'm important. You need to treat me a certain way to be in my life. So yes, Rachel, when you say people don't treat you important, your contribution to that is that you need to treat yourself really important and send the message to people, that's not acceptable. I don't know if you've met me, but I'm valuable and I deserve more than what you're doing. And sometimes it takes the courage to walk away from people who don't value you and once we close those doors, like I did a whole clean out period at a certain time in my life. These people are not treating me right. These people, and now I have people in my life who believe that I'm valuable and believe that I deserve, and they treat me as such, and it's all that I would tolerate.
Right. And you'll continue to be
Takes
tested.
time.
You'll continue to be tested by people who, who make you feel like you're not important. And you have to set boundaries and really say, you know what, I'm worth it. And it's not an overnight thing. I think, everyone looks at us and they think, oh, they've got it all figured out. And I've said this before. No. We don't have it all figured out.
I used a Q-tip this morning. A Q-tip
to clean her grout, okay?
Yeah. It's not the grout, but it doesn't matter. It was over the top. So
it was over the top.
It was way over the top. I'm going to throw out all my Q-tips.
I feel like I need some video of you cleaning with a Q-tip.
I did not know I am alone. Oh, okay. So I have good news for you. There is an alone period, Rachel, where when you clean out the people who don't treat you well,
it's very lonely.
It is healthy is a lonely place. And when you have that time period, here's what I promise you. I remember I was alone for probably 2 or 3 years as far as friends, because I just had to get rid of the people that weren't good, as far as locally. I had all my college roommates that were far away, but locally, and it took 2 or 3 years. And then I built a squad of like 5 women, and they're still in my life today. I just saw some of them yesterday for Thanksgiving or Thursday. That's what you have to do, is keep believing and keep putting that out there, and you will begin to attract new people who value you, and you will build that squad of people. And it's hard. It takes time.
It is hard. It does take time.
It takes time.
Yeah. I mean, I was the same, after my divorce, I lost a lot of friends, and same thing. It was hard. It was really hard during being alone during that time. But that's part of the process. It really is.
It is.
But it will come back around.
Yeah. Anything we clean out and we get rid of the old, it's going to take some time to get the new for most of us. I mean, to rebuild. It's a rebuilding process. It's like knocking down the house and rebuilding it.
Right. Jacqueline says another codependency issue, setting boundaries. Yeah. I said before in an earlier video that I hate that word, because I don't even, I hate saying boundaries, because I feel like I've always struggled with setting boundaries, but it's really just about taking care of yourself and doing what is right for you.
Yes.
And knowing what that is, knowing what that looks like.
Asking yourself that question.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was a great discussion. Thank you all for joining us on Facebook Live. We really appreciate it. And don't forget, the 2 books that we recommended today are
Brené Brown, The Gifts of Imperfection.
And mine was Radical Acceptance. And this is by Tara Brach. She is also a therapist, and she talks about just embracing who you are. And like I said, I bought this book and initially was like, it doesn't really connect with me. But then I picked it up a few months later, and it really is a great book. So Jonathan says being alone brings you closer to your true self. That is true. Right. Jacqueline, love you girls. Have a great weekend. Thank you. Thanks,
too.
Jacqueline.
Oh, Daryl. Mama Daryl. Hi.
Oh, Daryl, loving
your
Sarah.
Show.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Super Soul Sunday, girl. You stop it
Sarah.
right now. She says we're better than Super Soul Sunday. Could you call Oprah and just tell her that? Mwah.
We don't need Oprah.
Who needs Oprah? We need you, Oprah. We need you. Don't listen to her. Oh, thank you, Lori.
Thanks, Lori. That's my friend Lori. Well, thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it. And we're going to post a video every week. So make sure you join us every Saturday. We'll be posting our videos. And if you have anything you're struggling with, any ideas, please let us know. And also, please, please, please share these videos. That is the highest compliment, is if you share and like our page.
Thank you.
We would really, really appreciate it. All right. Have a great day, everyone. And we'll see you back here very soon.
Take care of yourself.